Hey there, men. Welcome back to another episode of Truck Talk Thursday here on the Wolf and Iron Podcast. I appreciate you being here, and if you are new to the Wolf and Iron Podcast, I just want to say welcome to you. Now, you might be listening to this and you're going, what's this all about? What's happening here? This is not your typical kind of podcast episode, and that's exactly what it's designed to not be, or to be, however you want to look at it. Wolf and Iron is all about helping you as a man heed the high call on your life, and we do that through podcasts, we do that through articles, we do that through connections in our Facebook group and other ways. And this podcast series, the thing that I do called Truck Talk Thursday, is just an informal way for me to speak to you guys, just be genuine, without all the bells and whistles and frill that normally goes into a podcast episode production. And I get to talk to you guys about whatever's on my mind. And if you want to connect with more of what we're doing with Wolf and Iron, or the guys that are kind of the like-minded men of this sort, you can head over to wolfandiron.com/the group, and that'll take you over to our Facebook page, actually. And we've got a free Facebook group out there. We've got over 2,000 guys that are part of this group. We keep the caliber of conversation high over there. There will be a couple of questions that you'll need to answer when you first show up, and if you do so and you're a good fit, we'll let you in. And I look forward to continuing the conversation over there. Today I want to talk about branding, and specifically how people get branding wrong. Now, when I'm thinking of branding, what comes to mind typically is the logo that people use, the colors that they use behind their brand, the wording that they use, and the choices and that kind of stuff. And there are a lot of things that people don't quite get about branding. There's the essence of it, there's the art of it, and then there's kind of the science of it. And a lot of times when someone doesn't really have the knack, let's say a new business owner starting up a company, he doesn't really have the knack for, the expression of, his artistic expression isn't there. He's more of a how to build a business, how to piece things together. He gets the science of things, right? And that's where he lives and breathes and does really well. And maybe he'll hire a branding company to come in and kind of create a logo for him and establish some colors and things like that. And it's like pulling teeth, or maybe like trying to put teeth into somebody. It's probably worse, because it's really, really difficult to get someone who doesn't have that artistic sort of intuition to really grasp what the branding people would be trying to get across. And so that might be you. You may be listening to this and going, okay, that sounds kind of like me. Nothing wrong with that. That's just your strengths are in that area, not in another area. You can still have a successful business. So how does branding work? Well, I think it helps to kind of harken back to where we get the idea of branding from. Now, branding has been around for a long, long time, but if we want to get very practical with it, let's think about branding cattle. Okay, so back in the day, and maybe this still happens with cattle, I don't know, I assume that they would use microchips or something like that at this point, but basically, cattle used to roam the hills. You didn't have to fence in all of your acreage and all that kind of stuff. You'd kind of let your wildlife just sort of roam around, and this was great because they could graze in the countryside. Pigs and such could go out into the woods and eat acorns and chestnuts when those were a thing, prior to the chestnut blight, which killed all of our chestnut trees just about. Anyhow, your cattle could kind of roam somewhat freely, and occasionally they would intermingle with other people's cows, or people would try to steal your own cows and that kind of stuff. So the way you would identify them is with a brand, and you guys know this. But what you may not have known is that in the early days, in the early cattle days, probably when there was more land to be roamed and less of a worry about people stealing your cows, the brands were kind of, the branding irons, the logos that they used were more angular, because that was easy to create. So you may have a double R ranch logo, and it's just a square logo, and the R's are very angular and square. And that'd kind of suffice, you'd brand that on your cows. And everybody kind of knew those. You're the double R ranch, and that's what your cows belong to you, and so on and so forth. But then, of course, somebody would try to be clever and become the double B ranch, and they would just basically rebrand over your cows and connect the bottom end of that R there, and to make it look like a B. And then who was to say, right, from, whose cows were whose at that point. And so as time went on, necessarily, branding irons became more ornate and more complex, almost like a signature. These things would be difficult for somebody to just come along and copy, and it would very easily stand out that this was your brand. These were your cows, right? And so began the long process of the mindset development that branding was created to identify something that belongs to you. And this is still a pervasive mindset today with brands. I mean, if you look at iconic brands like Pepsi or even Coca-Cola, they have, Coke has much more of an iconic look to their little swish Coca-Cola logo. And, these brands, people even use these branding kind of signature styles to make fun of things, right? Instead of it being a shirt that says Coke, it'll be a shirt that says something else, but written in that style, and so you kind of get the idea that they're sort of making fun of Coke or what have you. I don't know if there's maybe there's one that says diabetes, and it's written like Coca-Cola. I don't know. If there's not, somebody should make that one. Anyhow. But you get the idea that these brands become very, very serious about the protection of their style. And if you've ever worked for a big corporation, they become very protective about what their brand looks like. And so they'll have their logo, and they'll say, here's the fonts that we use, and here's how you can use our logo, and here's the spacing that's appropriate around the logo before you use any other text next to it, and here's the colors that our logo and text can be in, and the font styles that we can use, and so on and so forth. And they really try to just narrow down, this is our look. And they feel very accomplished when they've done this. And I'm not saying this is all bad, right? I mean, if we look at, like I said before, the iconic styles, the iconic logos, and things that haven't changed for decades. And Coca-Cola hasn't just, off the hand example. Maybe Hershey's could be another one. Any kind of candy type of stuff that just catches your eye. These sort of iconic brands have done a good job of really honing in what their style is. And so you recognize this is their product. This belongs to Coca-Cola or Hershey or what have you. The problem is that it misses really the goal and the essence of what a brand is really supposed to be about, what a brand can do. And this is the key part, guys. So if you're branding your company, if you're an entrepreneur, or if you're working for a company, maybe you're in the branding business, marketing business, this is the key thing, that you've got to distinguish the really, really great brands from what everybody else is doing. Most people would see a brand and say, this is a way for people to identify our products. People see this brand and they identify that this is X company. And to them, that is the greatest achievement. When they've nailed down exactly what their logo looks like and their color scheme looks like, and people can say, this is our product. Certainly a place for that. The great brands, the ones that really make an emotional connection with people, are the ones that understand that the brand is so that people can identify with your product. Okay, not just identify your product, but identify with your product. And ultimately, that's going to lead to them identifying with your company, with the things that your company stands for. So if we take this back to the cattle example, it would be the difference between someone coming along and saying, oh, look, there's old Double R Ranch's cow. That cow belongs to the Double R Ranch because it has a stamp on the side. It's the difference between that and someone saying, look, there goes one of the cows from Double R Ranch. Have you heard their story? Do you know how the ranch began? Let me tell you a little bit about the things that they stand for and the things that I'm really impressed by with them and why I like them. That, my friends, is where every company wants to be. But a lot of people don't know how to get there because they really don't understand branding. It really is about getting people to your story. Look at another company, for example, like ONeil, which is a famous surfboard company. They do a lot of clothing and apparel and that kind of stuff around the surfboard brand, right? They probably make surfboards. I'm not a surfer guy, so I don't pretend to have any kind of expertise in this. But they, along with brands that are similar in the skateboard industry and things of that nature, do a very good job of kind of opening up their brand to many, many different styles. And so it would be totally appropriate for someone to have a graffiti kind of logo of ONeil in their own style. It would be totally appropriate for somebody to, etch it in, just carve it into their surfboard. And even that has its own kind of appeal to, what's going on, right? There's to make the logo look like surf waves, or to make the logo look like what have you. And so the whole reason behind that is because they understand there's an essence behind the brand that's more important than just locking down the style. The style is still in there, but you're going to find it in the essence. For Wolf and Iron, as an example, one of the decisions that we've had to make just recently as we began to release new t-shirts is, how closely do we adhere to the Wolf and Iron logo? And do we come up with some kind of like wolf and iron kind of imagery, and that becomes our little, like our mascot or something, and we stamp that on everything, and that becomes all the things Wolf and Iron? And honestly, guys, it just sounded really boring to me. There's a part of that kind of appeals to me. We can use some of those things, but we said it's about more than that. There's an essence there that I'm trying to get to, and you find the essence when you have the freedom of creativity within your brand. And as long as your logos, your design, your artwork, the things that you're putting out there represent the sort of that intuitive feeling that people get when they connect with your brand, then you're on the right track. You don't have to worry about locking it in so much. And so on our t-shirt designs, we'll do some, especially the ones that have like a little front hit, a chest hit. So maybe the big designs on the back, the Wolf and Iron logo of some kind is on the front chest, or the Wolf and Iron, the words Wolf and Iron are somehow in the main image on the front of the shirt or the back of the shirt, doesn't matter. It's just different. It's not our typical logo. It's just something unique, and it just says, Wolf and Iron, right? And you connect with that, and you get what we're about without having to say, this is our logo, this is exactly how it looks, and we'll never depart from it. I'm no expert on this, but I get that much at least, and I think that's really key, guys. And I hope that helps you guys as you're thinking about branding your businesses. More than it is about having a particular look. You can have a default that you rely on, that's fine. But more than just having a particular look and a particular style that you never move away from, it's about having a branded, the essence, and something that people intuitively connect with. And if you don't get that, if that doesn't come to you naturally, then trust your branding guys to help you with that. Really reach out to people and say, hey, we're thinking about doing this shirt or this logo. What's the feeling that you get when you see this? And if it comes across the right way, then go with it. All right, guys, I hope that's helpful. Love any feedback on this from you guys. I appreciate you. Talk to you later.